I'm going to show you how to replace the cord in a Treasure Garden umbrella that's purchased about 2011, so it's about 10 years old. To do this job, you'll need a couple of spare parts and some tools. Of course, you'll need some cord. I bought this cord from an authorized Treasure Garden dealer, so they sold me the cord that actually Treasure Garden does use. It's usable in the umbrellas. Avoid cord that you might find on Amazon. It advertises itself to be used for umbrellas. Sometimes it's very flimsy and it's a little more likely to get snared inside the umbrella pole, so I recommend going with the manufacturer's recommended parts on this. I use fishing line and about 6 feet of wire here to fish the cord through the umbrella pole. I have bits here to drill out the rivets that Treasure Garden uses to put the umbrella together, and then finally to replace those rivets when I'm done, I have 2 number 8 screws, and then here is an M5 screw that's about 1/4 inch and a quarter long with a lock nut, nylon lock nut on the end, and that will be used to hold the joint together for the tilt mechanism. The first thing you want to do is you want to unscrew the finial so you can take off the canopy. Finial removed. Remove the bottom cap of the pole. The next step is to remove the canopy. I find that I can do that just by pulling on it, and it will come off without needing to open the umbrella up. Okay, so the canopy has been removed. The next step is to remove the old cord from the umbrella. In my case, the cord is broken inside the pole, and it's probably wrapped itself around the spindle here inside the housing, but most of the cord is outside the umbrella, and I've got to detach it from the sliding collar right here. To do that, you've got to take the umbrella, turn it upside down, open up the veins so that the collar slides all the way down, and then you can remove the tension from the cord caused by this rib right here that's pinching the cord. And then I use this bent pin to pull the cord knot out of that hole, and I'll show you how I do that in a minute. The umbrella is now upside down. I've slid the collar all the way down so that the ribs are wide open. I have better access to this hole here so I can remove the string. So I reach in with my pin and pull out the knot. Now I can just pull the cord completely out of the collar. Okay, so the old cord's been removed from the sliding collar, and now I'm going to remove these 4 screws here with a Phillips head that hold the housing cover together. Be sure to put the screws in a safe place. Okay, with the screws removed, the housing comes apart pretty easily. And there you go. Housing's been removed. Now this is the auto tilt handle right here. I recommend leaving this in place. There's a lot of grease underneath this guy. You can turn it and lift it up, but I recommend keeping it covered up because you'll expose the grease and get it all over your hands unnecessarily. And it's also possible that the bolts that are in there to slide the auto tilt mechanism up and down could fall out, and then you'd have trouble getting them back into the mechanism because there's a bit of a spring loading operation inside of here. So my recommendation is just leave this where it is. You shouldn't need to move it. The next step is going to removing this nut. To do that, I've got to bend these collar tabs back with a screwdriver, flat tip screwdriver. And once the nut has been freed, I can then put a flat bladed tip screwdriver in there, and I can use a wrench to open this nut up, and that will loosen this end of the spindle from the pole here. Okay, so the tabs have been pushed back here and here, and now I'm going to remove the nut by turning it, I guess it would be clockwise here, and holding it with this flat-bladed screwdriver. Okay, the nut's been completely loosened, and now I'm free to lift off all the different layers of mechanisms here. There's different kinds of washers, lock washers and so forth that are here, and there's even a little ratcheting mechanism. Be careful to keep track of the sequence of events as you take things off here so you don't lose these parts and then lose track of how they go back in place. Okay, all those different parts have been removed. This is the sequence that they go on, and you can see this is this washer here would go on first, and then the ratchet, and then that lock washer, and then finally the nut. The next step is to remove these these housings that hold the spindle in place. These are like a little seating mechanisms to keep the spindle locked in position. There's one on each side of the pole here, one on the handle side and one on the nut side. Unfortunately, Treasure Garden has opted to use rivets to hold these in place when they installed them instead of screws, which makes this a little more of a challenge. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use this 9/64 bit and just drill out the center of the rivet there so that I can pop off the ring and push out the rivet. Then when I reinstall it, I'll have to use a wood screw, probably a number 6 panhead wood screw, to go back into that spot to hold this unit in place. So I've drilled off the top of that rivet there. Now it's down just to the middle stem of the rivet. And so the easiest thing at this point is to use these vice grips to grip this seat mechanism here, and then just pull it off of the. See, the seating mechanism's been removed, and there you can see what's left of the rivet. And then repeat that for the other side as well. So now with both seats removed from either side, you can see the old cord is still in there. And best thing to do at this point is to get like something sharp and try to pull it out, like that needle I had used before, or maybe you can get your pliers in there and pull out what's left of the cord. Once you do that, then you should be able to pull out this whole spindle mechanism. So I've pulled out the spindle and what's left of the old cord. Okay, so I set this aside for now. Okay, the next step involves taking apart the tilt mechanism at the joint here. Because this is an auto tilt, I cannot get my new cord through this opening, this channel inside of here without opening this guy up. It's just too hard to get access to. So unfortunately, once again, Treasure Garden has started using rivets for these joints. So what I'm going to do is drill out this rivet with a 1/4-inch bit, and then the diameter of that is about 5 millimeters. So an M5 metric bolt will go into there eventually to replace that rivet. So I've managed to drill out the top of the rivet, and now there's the head. I pushed it through with a nail and a hammer. Now just a matter of taking the rest of it and then just pulling it out with your vice grips. So we've removed the rivet from there. I've put the umbrella back on the floor upside down and slid the collar all the way back, again, to the top of the umbrella. Now you want to take a look at this pulley down here. You want to make sure that you can see the pulley, and then attached to it you can see a small plastic, like a little retaining collar that's used to hold the cord. The cord will pass along that pulley and through that and down through the pole here. The next step now is to pull up the shaft and separate the mechanisms, and you can see it comes out. Just let it prop it carefully like that, and now you can pop off this piece right here. This is the thing that will cover the cord as it's going through this mechanism that's used for the tilt feature. So be sure to save this and set it aside. Okay, I start feeding the cord through on this side of the pulley. Push it all the way through to the opposite side. Here you can see the string has come through this side, and pull it through, and then you'll know you're doing it correctly if you can see that little white thing right there sticking through. That's the side that you need to see right here when you're pulling this cord through this way. If you've got it backwards, then pull the cord out and come in the other direction. Okay, so I've pulled most of the cord all the way through the pulley here. You can see it coming out this end here. I put a big fat knot in the other end so that it won't accidentally get pulled through as I'm trying to lace it up through the pole. So the next step is to take a segment of wire and fish it through the intersection here on the same side that you removed that plastic cover for the cord path. So fish it through on this side over here, all the way down through. You want to get it through that little square plastic hole there that is used to protect the cord from rubbing against the edge of this opening. And then you can see I have you can see there moving. That's the wire that came all the way through. And next step is to pull the cord up through the path I used for the wire. The next step, wrap a small piece of fishing line around the very tip of the cord. I put the fishing line in a spiral path around the cord, then wrap tape around that. That will prevent the line from sliding out. I do the same thing on the other end of the line to the wire that's sticking down here by the pulley. I wrap the fishing line around the tip of the wire and then take some masking tape and wrap that around the two together. This passageway up through here is very narrow, and I really can't put the cord and tape it to the end of the wire because that would make it too wide and it wouldn't fit through the channel that exists up through here. So the next step is going to be to pull this wire up through here and through this little thing here. Just keep pulling up through, and then you'll be able to get the cord up in and out the other end. Okay, I've pulled the cord up through there, through this channel here, using the wire and the fishing line, and now it's all the way through. Now I can just go ahead and pull most of the cord up through so that I've got what I need to take it through the rest of the pole. Okay, so I've pulled the cord all the way up through into here. The next step is to take about a 6-foot length of wire and push it up through this opening here. It's the easiest way to go this direction because there's a really small hole that's right here that you'd never hit if you went the other direction. So push up through this direction, just take that whole 6-foot length and just drive it all the way up through there. Okay, so now I've fished the wire all the way up through from the intersection there, all the way up through the pole up here. This is the end. And the next step is to attach a fishing line to the other end and also to the cord, and then I can just pull the wire completely through and pull up the cord. So the cord now has been completely pulled up through the pole. I've got some spare down here in the bottom to attach later on, and the next step is to take the piece that we removed earlier, and this goes back on, this cover goes back over the, right there, it goes over the cord, and then that allows you to put the, just like that, allows you to, and you can push the pole back into position here. So I've reinserted the bottom pole into the top pole here. I've lined up the holes, and now you can go ahead and install your M5 bolt into the opening here, and then your lock nut. Okay, with the umbrella closed back up again and the collar back into its down position, we've got the string hanging out, the cord hanging out the bottom of the pole here. What you want to do is reach in and snag that cord and pull it through the hand crank side of the hole. Just pull the cord all the way through, and then now we'll attach this cord to the crank. Okay, so I've pushed the cord through the spindle hole. You can see it right there, and then I've put a knot at the very end so that the cord won't come out of the spindle. Now, important to note here that you can see that end of the rope there. That's the factory end. That's how the cord was supplied to me. It's a nice clean end that's sealed and melted together so that it's smooth and won't fray. So I opted to not cut this end of the cord so it would be cleanest inside the pole. The spindle spins around inside there, obviously, when you're putting the umbrella up and down. And one of the reasons I think these cords are failing so easily is I think the ends of the cord are rubbing against the inside of the pole, and they're coming apart, and that's causing extra fibers to be in there, and that gets snared and causes the cord to get snagged and eventually break. So I think it might be important that we make sure that end of the cord is as clean as possible. No extra you can see past the knot. Only about 1/2 inch of cord past that knot. Pulled the knot very tight, and I made sure also that extra cord is now pulled up into the pole. And my next step is then to first insert the knot into the opening here, and then I can go ahead and fish the whole spindle through there by pulling the cord tight as I'm pushing the spindle in. So I've got the spindle inserted on this side, on the crank side. I pulled all the extra cord up through the pole, so all that's stuck now is the cord that comes down through and goes through the spindle hole, and then it has a knot on the end. And you can, if you got a flashlight, you can shine up in there and you can verify that everything's untangled and ready to go. I recommend that. It's really hard for me to take a video of that because it's just a small opening. Next step is to attach the other side of the spindle support. Okay, you can see I've put the seating mechanism on the other side of the spindle. I've made sure that this little ratchet spring lever here is on this side on the correct side of the spindle. And then the next step will be to put on the various lock washers and nut that go over top of that, as well as the ratchet for this ratchet lever. Okay, so I've put on the two washers, the ratchet and the nut, just loosely hand tightened. Now my next step is to take the wrench and the flathead screwdriver here and to tighten down that wrench. And then after I do that, I will fold the ears back up of the lock washer, the lock washer around the nut, and that will lock the nut in place from loosening. So I've tightened the nut to the point where it's nice and snug. Don't make it too tight. You want the handle here to be able to turn easily enough. I've bent over the tabs around the nut so that the nut won't become loose. Okay, now install the number 8 screws into the holes that the rivets were taken from. You can see I've already installed one screw here. I'll put this one in the other side, and then we'll go ahead and put the housing cover in place next. So here's the bottom half of the housing installed. You can see how it grips around the bottom rim of the tilt collar handle. There's a plastic washer that is underneath the crank. That plastic washer is on the outside of the housing. You can see the edge of it right there. And now the next step is to take the other end of the housing and put it on top and attach the 4 screws. I screwed in the 4 screws. Take the cap for the bottom, pop that on there. I've opened the umbrella back up again so I can fish the cord up through the slide mechanism. There's a little opening here under this rib right here. Make sure you get pick the rib that's on the same side as the pulley. Fish it through that. There's an opening there, and then you can look down through here, and you can either push it through with a wire, or you can just get lucky and pull it through with your pliers. But there you have it. It goes through that mechanism. The next thing is we're going to close this back up again, and so we can get the right sizing for the length of the cord. We'll cut the cord and put a knot on the end. So I put a small knot on the very end of the cord, made it as tight as I could, and then I used this flame to sort of like melt the tip there and get it so it won't fray. And then get a slight, turn the handle a little bit here, and you should see that go back up in there. Now it's locked into position. And now we're ready to put the canopy back on top and attach the finial.